Today's guest is a distinguished person that conquered different domains in life, such as telecommunications and electronics, satellites, also aviation engineering and space science, as well as remote sensing. In addition to that, he worked in an important project, distant teaching and learning, and linking the schools of the Republic of Egypt with satellite and sound and picture with a wireless network. He also worked in a number of French companies and other foreign ones in the field of telecommunications and renewable energy, modernizing and updating studios to fourth generation in a number of areas in the Republic, doing necessary tests and measurements. In addition to other achievements throughout his professional career, but today we'll also get to know Engineer Ahmed Al Fadali, satellite communication and aerospace engineer. We'll find out from him his debut and why he did join the School of Engineering and why he chose specifically that department.
This was a part of my dream to study engineering in specifically. Then communication. I was very interested in communications and communication between Earth and the sky. This was the big dream. So the first step in this dream was to study electronics and communications engineering. This was the main gateway. I would say I was lucky to be in this path and fulfill this dream.
Despite the fact that Engineer Ahmed Al Fadali graduated from the Telecommunications and Electronics Engineering Department, he got his master's degree in aerospace technology and its applications from the Aviation Engineering and Space Science.
First of all, there is a slight connection between satellite and communication engineering, which I started at the beginning of my life. This was the sky. The sky was the main connection. How I started this actually, it was part of communication between me and my colleagues who shared the same vision. We started like 3 or 4 of us this journey. That's it. We could say studying specific subjects in this degree was part of my concern. For instance, satellite imaging, which aids in remote sensing, and the title of this degree was Applications of Satellite Remote Sensing. Of course, there is a lot of applications that can get use of this study. Development of countries' resources and helping in reconstruction and mapping and agriculture. So a lot of aspects for this specific study.
Engineer Ahmed Al Fadali occupied the post of Control Lab Engineer in Cairo University in the Space Science Center.
In our field, which is the aerospace engineering, There are a couple of research institutes in Egypt and in the region, our region. I was very concerned in communicating with those research centers in Egypt and in our region, and also share visions for national concerns and on the private aspect. Some of those were actually my teachers in first place. So you cannot get isolated from the academic life. This supports our practical career path at the end. We cooperate, or I cooperated with national institutes and private sector institutes from France, from Germany, from different countries in Europe, and part of them also are already communicating and cooperating with universities that work in our field, the aerospace engineer.
Engineer Ahmed Al-Fadali worked as visiting professor in the Moscow Aviation Institute. The experience was in Russia, and to him it was one of the most important experiences that gave him different experience in the aerospace and space telecommunications in one of the important places in Russia.
About the experience with the Moscow Aviation Institute, which is called MAI. Actually, this was a scholarship from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia through their embassy. I was offered this beautiful scholarship. This enabled me as a civilian engineer, because actually in this institute you find aerospace engineer from the civilian sector and from military sector, for instance, fighters and so. So it was a great experience, but I haven't completed in this path actually, and I prefer to fulfill the rest of my dreams starting from Egypt here in the field of aerospace engineering, both in the practical and research and development scope.
Engineer Ahmed Al-Fadali worked as transmission engineer and director of a project in the Egyptian satellite company NASAT.
Actually, Egypt has some cooperation program in the field of research and development in the field of aerospace engineering. Egypt cooperates with many aerospace agencies: European Space Agency, Russian Space Agency, and Chinese space agencies. Through my practical life on the private level, I already cooperated and have experience with some projects in the field of aerospace engineering.
One of the important phases in the professional life of Engineer Ahmed Al-Fadali is his work in the French telecommunications company. It was a turning point in his career. Let's get acquainted with this point. One of the most important stops in the life of Engineer Ahmed Al-Fadali is his work in the National Telecommunication Regulatory Facility, which is considered an important post as it is the principal body in Egypt that regulates telecommunications in Egypt.
In this field, working with digital satellite broadcast in Egypt in the Nilesat. Actually, it was a big project between the two companies, between Dubai and Egypt, Sama Dubai Broadcast Station and Egypt. Project had many countries that are aiming to start encrypted or pay-per-view digital media broadcast. I was lucky to be one of this team at a very early stage of my life. I was very young to lead such projects in Egypt from an engineering and operations perspective. It was a great experience, of course. It witnessed some developments in the Nilesat at this time. I had the honor to work with France Telecom. This was a turning point in my life. Through this experience and time of this phase, I was able to interact with different international and European organizations. I had the opportunity to witness modern technologies in the field of the communication engineering and security in the telecommunication field. We worked with various scopes in Europe, including maritime engineering, aerospace companies, space agencies, and also governmental organizations. At this time, I worked between Cairo and France, but we were based here mainly in Cairo. It was a big team managing this huge service with a big turnovers for both countries.
One of the most important jobs Engineer Ahmed Al-Fadali participated in is distance learning and linking the schools of the Republic of Egypt via satellite with a sound and picture telecommunications network. It's one of the important projects that were applied in 1,000 Egyptian schools, and the project is still ongoing.
Through some projects, I was also lucky to interact with regulatory authorities in Egypt, okay, in the National Telecom Regulatory Authority, regulating the wireless communications in Egypt. We were providing technologies to the organization, trainings. To enable us to establish the very end base of standards here in our country, because actually the regulatory authorities are part of the TRA, which is part of the United Nations organizations, so we have to follow the standards precisely. I was happy to train colleagues and engineers there on such technologies, and we learned from each other a lot.
Mobile phones became a necessity in life, therefore Engineer Ahmed Al-Fadali took part in updating and developing the aerial of the mobile network from 3rd generation to 4th generation in Alexandria, Tushki, Luxor, in Aswan, and doing the necessary measurements and tests. One of the important actual projects are the reconstruction and remote sensing, and that is in different cities and places, and this is one of the most important projects Engineer Ahmed Al-Fadali took part of.
Distant learning, if we may say distant learning, and how we can use technology and satellite communication distant learning, of course this is a very important issue for many countries, developed countries, and especially countries in the African region. rural areas have difficulties receiving televised transmission or internet. So we use special technologies to deliver this. We can connect schools, we can connect universities, distant learning centers through communications. I was lucky to work on one of these projects. Around 1,000 school was the first phase, and we successfully did it finally. The main aim is to enable students and teachers and staff to see each other. So we implement video conference technology, which enables the classes to interact with the teachers and with the supervisors through different schools and through their ministries, if possible, ministries of education. So this was one thing. Also enabling interactive internet through video conferencing. This shortens the time of the learning process, lessons and lectures and so. This was a bit a beneficial experience also to many countries, not only in Egypt. I may say that Egypt have a very well constructed infrastructure in the distant learning field through its universities and its schools. We've walked a very long way until today. Basically, the target. This is a good question. The target was the governmental school because they lacked the investment to stand on the edge of technologies. So it was part of it was funded through Egyptian government, and we provided the technologies. We were very happy to draw a smile on students' faces. They could easily go through their daily learning processes. At the end, it's you can say this is a humanitarian aim to use engineering in the beneficy of the social arena and the the community. Especially for children. So I can say this is a good thing also. It was in Cairo and different governorates in Egypt, and the south of Egypt had a good part of this if we may say, these technologies and these efforts. Project duration, it was like 1 year to finish the implementation. We managed to finish it earlier than this. So this is about the distant learning.
Of the most important experiences and expertise acquired throughout his professional life, Engineer Ahmed Al-Fadali's work also with a number of foreign government bodies such as the French Foreign Affairs, the German Foreign Affairs, the Netherlands Foreign Affairs as well, and the French Navy, the Russian Defense and Armament Ministry, the French Aerospace Agency, the US Space Agency, in addition to others.
Working in the field of telecommunications and mobile communications specifically, Egypt was also working actively in this field, developing the infrastructure of mobile telecommunications in Egypt. Of course, this is a long history since the service started in our country. We started with the mobile GSM, then the GPRS, then the 2G, then the 3G. The upgrade of this whole process is a big operation. What we see as citizens is the antennas above buildings maybe and on towers. Replacing the antennas was a big challenge for the engineers and the technicians, because actually in any project you are entitled with the time window there. Egypt managed, I was lucky to be part of this development process in our country. We managed in a very short time to upgrade our networks from 2G to 3G and from 3G to 4G. I witnessed those phases. So one of my projects here in my country. It was a good experience, of course. We interacted with the French part, and it was a great experience, I can say. In the field of post-conflict reconstruction, our role, or my role, via a group and a community called the UPCOR team community. It consists of engineers and professors in the urban planning from Egypt and the Stuttgart University in Germany. My role is focused on remote sensing applications to enhance and help in the reconstruction process. When I say remote sensing, it's not rocket science, but we use drones to take photos for damaged areas. These damaged areas could be temples, could be archaeological sites. We use remote sensing technologies from space and from air to take photos to such areas. That helps us to do what we call damage assessment, to have awareness of the size of damage and the type of damage. This is the role of remote sensing, in which I am very much concerned through the current phase of my life, which of course could be a humanitarian role that needs international cooperations through governments and through organizations, and also the academic part.
Engineer Ahmed Fadali's plans and dreams do not stop at that. There is more to do, and the skies are the limit.
I can say that my father is my role model in this. Aside from the support that every father gives to his son, and my mother also, they supported me a lot in my life. My father was an ex-diplomat that served in the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Through his role and experience, I traveled in many places at a very early stage that helped shaping, of course, my way of thinking, interacting with different cultures. In Southeast Asia and Europe and part of countries in the Middle East. This affected me a lot, of course, shaping my the way how I think, how I see stuff from other perspectives or other cultural perspectives. I pay all the gratitude to my father in this part. Success is a result of a lot of patience, a lot of commitment to your work, a lot of dedication to the work. It is not an easy mission, it is not an easy task. So facing a lot of problems, like we could say, could be financial problems, to have, that's why we have scholarships, okay, to enable us to cross a specific period of our life, academic life. Patience and dedication to the work and to the dream that anybody sees is an important factor in this role. So I would say patience and dedication. On the personal level, I wish to proceed in my academic career in the future, do more researches and studies, continue in this lane, if we may say, and also use what we have learned to apply what we have learned, the knowledge on ground, to be able to take part in the development of our countries. For me as an Egyptian, to develop my country in my own career or my own field of specialty, I see it is a dream coming true every day.